Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening in to this month's Work Camping Q&A session. I'm Jody Anderson Duquette here with Workamper News. And if you're not familiar with Workamper News, we are the original resource for work camping. So back in 1987, we created the term work camping, coined it, trademarked it, and started spreading the word and gathering the community into an organized resource. We started out as a mailed newsletter in the mail, graduating to a magazine, and then of course taking work camping on the internet when that became a thing. And workamper.com is our online home and the best compilation of resources and tools for work campers. So I've personally been at this for about 17 years now, working with work campers and the businesses that hire them. So I have the pleasure of working with both sides. Learned a lot over the years, especially from the community. I'm an RVer myself. We're now on our third RV. I've been a part-time RVer, a full-time RVer, so I understand the lifestyle because I've lived it, just like many of you guys are doing or hoping to do in the future. So now, a lot of you guys submitted questions ahead of time, as we had quite a few registrants for this webinar this month, so I'm probably going to spend most of my time answering the pre-submitted questions. But for those of you who are online live with us, you're welcome to chat in if you like. You should have either a questions or chat option at the bottom of your screen if you're on a smartphone or tablet, or if you're on a laptop or a desktop, you should have that GoToWebinar control panel up in your screen with a questions or chat section in there. So feel free to chat in. Again, lots of questions, likely going to fill at least an hour of me answering these questions for you guys. But looking forward to getting through all of them. So first up, let me get my slides going here. I'll have the questions on the screen, so that way you guys are able to see what question that we're talking about. So if you are watching the recording of this later, you can kind of scan through to maybe those more important or pertinent questions to you. Everybody starts, somewhere, and a lot of the same questions come in all the time, but you guys are all learning, and we're happy to help you do that. So kind of like I mentioned a little bit here, Workamper News, we are the best toolkit to help you guys be successful at this lifestyle. We focus a lot on the education. That's why we do webinars like this, but we also have online courses, videos, articles, a weekly podcast. We're still doing our magazine. And so we know the importance of understanding transitioning into RVing and figuring out what this work camping thing is and how to make it work for me based on my needs and wants and budget, etc. So we have lots of education to help you guys feel confident in moving forward into this lifestyle or improving on this lifestyle if you're already living it. We can always, be improving and learning. But we also do have the largest number of job listings for RVers anywhere, the easiest ways to sort through them, search them, customize, get connected with them. We also have the largest variety of different opportunities. Some of the other resources that are out there online kind of trend more just to being RV parks and campgrounds, but there's really a wide variety of things that work campers get to do. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. All right, just wanted to point out workamper.com if can't talk today apparently. Those of you who are not familiar with Workamper News yet, that's just a little bit about us and who we are. All right, so multiple questions here. What type of jobs are out there? Are there jobs in certain states? Are there remote work jobs? What does a such and such do? What is the best place to work? So let's kind of dive in here. Work camping is doing any kind of part-time or full-time work while living in an RV. That's it. That's the definition. So when you look at it that way, you're like, oh gosh, I could pretty much be doing anything. There's lots of work campers who are running their own small business out of their RV, and they're not taking traditional work camping jobs. That's awesome too. You guys can do this lifestyle, like I said, whatever best accommodates you, how you want to do this. Lots of new work campers, especially maybe those also just transitioning into the RV lifestyle. I think a lot of times, we're excited and we're going to be doing this RV travel thing. And so you're like, I want to go all over and be moving constantly and do a week here and a week there and a week there and a week here. That's going to be a little harder to do. Most of the opportunities are going to be location based. And oftentimes, like the short-term opportunities, I've seen as short as like 4 days or maybe a weekend event. But typically you're looking at 1 month, maybe 3 months, or possibly 6 months are what you're going to see most often for the length of time that these work camping jobs are for. And also moving around a lot is kind of exhausting. I've been there, I've done that. You want to see as much as you can, but then you end up trying to do so much that you're just like, you kind of forget, like, what did we do, last month? And I mean, we did go to Montana and we went to Glacier, but do you remember we only had time to do 1 hike or whatever? So one of the benefits of doing this work camping thing and being in a place for maybe 3 months, 6 months, or even a year is you really get to envelop yourself in that area. You guys are probably doing this RVing thing because you want to see beautiful and cool and unique places all around the US, whether it's big cities or going out into the desert or forests, national parks, whatever kind of, your deal is and how you want to travel. The goal is to see and experience those places. So work camping kind of takes the stress out of the traveling, in my opinion. You're going to have a place to be for a while. You have a purpose to be there, with the work that you're doing, but then you're also going to have time on your days off, your hours off, to go and, get to know people at the local watering hole, or find a favorite hike and hike it multiple times, because you'll see something new every time you do that hike. So, when you're first looking at this work camping thing, you may want to be bouncing around all over the place, and maybe that's your style, and that's cool. There are opportunities that do require you to travel. So that's a possibility as well. So, all right, so thinking more specifically, types of jobs, mostly you are going to see RV park and campground type jobs. That is kind of the primary industry that's in our work camping community. So whether that's a mom and pop owned, it's a commercial entity, maybe it's a government run, state park, county park. A lot of times, like the Forest Service operations are, a concessionaire is then operating those parks. So you'll work with a concessionaire if you want to be maybe in a Forest Service park. So lots of different types of campgrounds. Army Corps of Engineers is another one. They'll have day use areas as well as camping areas. So lots of different RV parks, campgrounds, big ones, small ones, everything in between. But like I said, there really is a big variety. So there's retail operations, amusement parks, circuses, fireworks tents, Christmas tree tents and sales, pumpkins sales. There's an entity, and I have a picture on one of our slides of that later. You go and you hang Christmas lights on buildings and structures, and then once Christmas is over, you go and you can take them all down. There are entities, there's 2 big ones, AGS and Southeast Publications. So if you are someone who does maybe want to move around an area a little bit more, these 2 companies provide and create like the campground maps and other advertising that campgrounds have. So you as the work camper go to a campground, and then you go to businesses in the local area to try to sell advertising for that campground map or website, some other stuff. So it's a sales position, but it allows you to move around more. Also, we're seeing a lot of kind of small family farms or ranches, like larger pieces of property that are privately owned, and they're just looking for folks to come and help take care of their land and their property, which is super cool. And there are like lighthouses on the coast or in Michigan that are looking for, docents, tour guides. Let's see, what are some other, gate guarding is another one. That's a contracting position. So you're kind of the eyes and ears at these oil and gas locations. It's mostly in Texas, but there's a few other locations where they do that. So you set up at the gate to whatever this oil property thing is, and you just, when somebody comes in, you go out there and you say, hey, who are you and what are you doing here? And let them in if it's okay, and you log it down. And then whenever somebody leaves, you go, okay, did you get everything you came in with? And you log that they left. And so you're just there pretty much 24/7 to be on-site security. So that's another one. One that provides more moving around travel is working for Southern Cross. This is an entity where you walk gas lines and look for issues, I think. Anyway, they've been hiring Workampers for a long time. And so that's one where you're definitely going to get your steps in with this job. So if that, you'd like to walk a lot, that's going to be a good opportunity for you, Southern Cross. Of course, there's the big ones, as I like to call them, the sugar beet harvest. Very popular work camping opportunity, probably the best paying work camping opportunity that's out there. So it's the sugar beet harvest takes place about September, October, and it's kind of more in the northern Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan. And Workampers typically, some companies will hire you to drive the trucks that haul the beets from the fields to the receiving stations, but mainly you're working at the receiving stations. So trucks are coming in, you're telling them where to go, they're dumping beets, you're sweeping up beets, maybe you're running the big machinery with the big conveyor belts where throw the beets in the piles and fun stuff like that. So that at the shortest, that's going to be a 2-week job, and you might earn up to $3,500 just in 2 weeks. Amazon Camper Force is another one, been around for about 10, 11 years now. So there's about 12 fulfillment centers within the Amazon system that hire work campers specifically. And so you go to work in whatever style fulfillment center it is, and yeah, you're working for the beast there and seeing all their cool machinery and all the systems that they have. And they don't provide RV sites, but they do provide camp pay, which is money that you can use to go and pay for an RV site in that area. All right, so that's, again, just a few, just kind of off the top of my head, but once you get into, our website, start looking through our hotline and digging into our online magazine, you guys are really going to start seeing the different variety of stuff that's out there. Are there jobs in certain XX state? Yeah, pretty much every state. Some states, like we'll rarely see, there's some northeastern states that we rarely see, like New Jersey's pretty rare. There's a couple though. So a few northeastern states, sometimes the Carolinas, it's a little quiet over there, which surprises me because I feel like that's probably a really pretty area that I haven't got to go there yet, but one of these days. So there are some states that have more opportunities than others. And like I said, there is some seasonality to it because, more stuff is open in the summer months than in the winter months. So you're going to be able to find more opportunities spread out all around, April, May through September, October. That's really kind of prime time. If you're looking for opportunities more the fall, winter months, then oftentimes people are flocking south where it's warmer, not having to deal with the snow. And there's going to be more opportunities than in the south in the winter time. It can be a little more challenging to find those jobs that are paid for all hours worked and RV site provided with other perks. Those can be a little harder to find in the winter months, so you will want to be a little more proactive in finding that fall winter gig if that's the type of compensation that you're needing to find. Are there remote work jobs? Yes, there are some. I would say in the work camping community, maybe 1 to 3% of the advertised jobs are I work in my RV at a computer over the internet doing things kind of job. The entities that have remote work opportunities just haven't, they can really hire anybody. It's not like they specifically need to hire RVers and stuff. So those types of jobs, if you are truly interested in the, I want to just work on my computer wherever I am, that's going to still be like an Indeed.com, flexjobs.com, remote.co, like those types of websites that gear specifically to, hey, these are jobs that are remote work jobs. So you will see some, like RV Realtor is kind of a real estate, but it's RV sales entity. They hire work campers. CoachNet hires work campers. So there are some entities. RVpoints.com is another one that looks for work campers to work remotely. So they are out there. It's just not as many advertised directly to the work camping community, but we're going to work on that. Okay, what does a insert job title here do? So I left this in here. I know it kind of seems a little weird, but a lot of folks are like, what does a work camper do? What does a camp host do? What does a maintenance position mean? What does an office position mean? Those are, kind of some of the traditional job titles you'll see in help wanted ads. And there's no like super boxed in like answer. So you really need to investigate each opportunity. So taking maintenance at an RV park or campground, you definitely want to ask questions of the employer when you're interviewing with them, what that means to them. Maintenance in one place might be digging ditches to run water lines, constructing buildings, laying concrete, pushing gravel around, etc. And you're like, oh boy. Or it could be, hey, can you touch up the paint over on that building? Or hey, could you go rake that campsite? Or you're going to clean out fire pits, or do a little bit of landscaping. We need you to mow the areas on the riding lawnmower, or whatever. So it's really going to vary. So that's why you guys need to make sure you're doing due diligence on these opportunities and asking a lot of questions. Because as we've noticed here, a work camper is someone who works while living in an RV. So it really can be any job position. But some employers don't think of it that way. And so they're like, oh yes, well, we hire, the job title is work camper. And then to them, that means X, Y, and Z, So you just got to dig in and ask the employer a lot of questions to make sure you fully understand what their expectations are of XYZ job title at their operation. All right, what is the best place to work? That is super subjective to the person. Someone who is totally a people person would probably love working in the office at a super busy campground where there's just people coming and going and coming and going, or maybe like running games or rides at an amusement park where you're just all the time, different people coming at you and you're helping them out, etc. So if you're a people person, then you may want to find an opportunity that is really involved with a lot of customer service. If you're someone who's like, if I never had to talk to another person again, it'd be the best day ever, then you're going to want to try to trend towards the jobs that are, not customer heavy. You maybe want to go walk the gas lines for Southern Cross, or set up at a gate guard station for an oil and gas company where you're rarely going to see people. So again, the best place to work is really up to you guys. The best place is an opportunity that has job duties that you're interested in doing, you're comfortable with doing, you're physically capable of doing. It's, an environment that feels welcoming to you, a place where your RV will fit on the campsite or you're comfortable living at. It's in a location that you want to be in. So again, and even as you're reading like reviews on employers that work campers have written and shared about, remember to take that, take them with a grain of salt. 'Cause what works for one person won't work for another, we don't all exactly like the same things, and that's a good thing. So the best place is really, really up to you. Okay, so that probably took forever, and that was our first slide, and we've got about 15 more slides. So I'm gonna try to, I love talking about this stuff, you guys, so sorry, I kind of run a little long sometimes. Okay, how to find a job. What is the best way to verify jobs and research employers? And so I was going to pull up our website just real quick here, because honestly, this really is the super easy way to do it. All right, so here's our homepage, workamper.com. You can come on here and join. For work campers, we do have a free 30-day trial of our diamond level membership, because we are a yearly membership organization, guys. We're supported by both our work camper members and our employer members. We're not beholden to either side. We also do not fill our website with commercial ads, affiliate pushes, multi-level marketing stuff, those tracker banners that annoy the crap out of everybody, pop-ups and stuff like that, because we're focused on work camping and getting you guys where you want to go. So because we don't have all that other stuff, which could generate income for us, that's why we need you guys to help support us and keep us going. Our website is custom built and very secure. All right, so once you get logged in, you're taken to the dashboard, and from the dashboard, we can jump to the main resources that's provided to you with membership. So our two main job viewing avenues are our online hotline ad system. So we have a website page which shows you ads within the last 14 days. We also email these ads out each weekday. So every day you can get our hotline email with the full ad text in the email. It's not truncated. We don't make you go to the website and try to find the ad again. It's all right there in the email. But we have these super awesome search fields, so you can search for whatever states you want to go to. At the same time, if you're looking for an RV site or if you're looking for other housing, which is something we'll talk about later, if you don't have an RV, you can search for employers that provide housing. If you need all hours paid, anyway, lots of different ways to drill down to find the opportunities that are going to be right for you. If you're a solo work camper, you can check the box for solos just to view the ads from employers that say they hire solos. Now, this time of year, it's our quiet season. So 76 is, again, that's just in the last 2 weeks. This is our quiet time. This is a small number for us. So things are just going to start to get busier from here on out. So as you can see, full ad text from the employers, extra data below the ads. Again, just giving you guys more information so you can more quickly say, that sounds like it might work for me. That sounds like it isn't. Oh, and here's another Jackson Hewitt tax service. Somebody at Jackson Hewitt got wind of Workampers, and there are multiple Jackson Hewitt tax services now that are wanting work campers to come and join them. So there's another kind of opportunity that may interest some of you guys that's a little more unique. So you can review job listings easily through the hotline. When you check out our magazine, each issue of our magazine has job listings in it. We have over 90 issues of our magazine here on our website. This is the largest archive of work camping jobs anywhere, you guys. So I definitely encourage folks to even look at past issues. Most of our employer members are with us for years and years and years. So even if they're not actively advertising, go ahead and contact them anyway. Hey, I see maybe you have a work camper program. I'm really interested in what you advertised before. What's still available? How can I get started with you? Yada, yada, yada. So definitely do that. Then we have some employers who never advertise their jobs, and all they do is search our resume database to find their work campers. So we definitely want our members to dig into our resume builder, which we have right here. It's a super easy step-by-step tool. We, take the difficulty out of creating your work camping resume. So you guys don't need to sit and toil over a Word document. Just get in here, go through step-by-step, upload your stuff, and you'll have a nice looking resume that you can print out, email to anyone, export as a PDF, and you're ready to go. So super easy resume tool. You can even embed a video if you upload a video to YouTube. Anyway, we have other videos on this, but this is what our resume tool looks like. So these are kind of the main avenues you want to look for job listings and or get your resume out there. And I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint real quick here, guys. Okay, so we have another video. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. When you guys are looking for job listings or wanting to put yourself out there to get connected with employers, just be cautious. There are websites out there that are 100% free, but anything that's free, it's not really free. They're either collecting and sharing and selling your data or something else is going on, which we don't do. And so sites that are open to the internet can be accessed by anyone. We have seen an increase in scammers posting help wanted ads, masquerading as campgrounds, trying to get work campers, to communicate with them and send personal data to those scammers so then they can steal your identity and whatever else. So be really cautious when using sites that have no login and are completely free. Please maybe make a new email address for yourself that you don't use with anything else. If you do want to post your name and email address out there on the open internet, I would recommend doing that just as another little security thing. Don't share your current location. You should never have to send like your driver's license. I probably wouldn't even do social security numbers, especially and banking information. Like you should be able to provide that when you arrive to the location, or the employer, if it's a bigger entity that has like a sophisticated online onboarding process, you may be able to do it on a secure site online. So there are some exceptions to that, but you should never have to send that information via email, okay? So anyway, so just be cautious out there about what you post about yourself. When you do make a resume in our system, our resume database is only accessible to our employers who have paid a membership to access it. So it's not, anyone on the internet can't just find your resume in our database. So it is, a little more secure for you guys to use. And we've had scammers join our website. They're even going so far as to paying for a membership, trying to pay for an ad using a stolen credit card. And we kiboshed them and kicked them right out. So that's another thing that you have here at workamper.com. We have a support team. It's a small team. There's only 6 of us here, but every new member that joins, we take a look at their account, make sure nothing looks weird. Every ad that comes in, we're manually processing. So you do have a little bit of a buffer when using our system, a little more eyes on it before it would ever potentially get out to you. So again, just caution you, okay? Also, with our ads, I didn't point it out when we were looking at them, but like on our hotline system, for example, when we were looking at those job listings, we have a tool called Workamper Experiences. And this is a tool where when you complete a work camping job with XYZ employer, you can go in and say, this is what I did there, and this is how it went, whether it was good, whether it was bad, or in between, and share about that experience. So then whenever that employer runs an ad again, there's a link to click that goes right to any of the reviews that have been written regarding that employer. So again, we all love reviews, whether we're going to a restaurant or buying a thingamajig, we want to see what other people said about it to help us feel more confident in our decision on it. So link to reviews are right there with our help wanted ads. You're not going to find that anywhere else. So you can also connect with other work campers. I'm going to save that. There's another question later where we'll get into that more. Okay, what if I have no experience? Don't worry about it. There are so many Workamper employers who they're going to train you when you guys get there. Oftentimes these jobs are not super advanced, not super high tech. If there are like specifications, like if they want you to have, previous experience working with electricity or plumbing, or, maybe they want you to have sales experience, there will be a few of those. Where there will be some kind of prerequisites, but most of the time employers are just looking for folks who are going to be positive, flexible, willing to be part of the team and do what is expected of them, and just to be open to learning and doing things how an employer wants it done. And also, you're going to find that it's going to be different. If you're always maybe working at an RV park or campground, you're going to see, you might be like, yeah, I know how to run a campground office. Well, one campground office versus another campground office might be a totally different deal, and they may do things a lot differently than the other one. So sometimes you'll have to be careful not to be like, well, at this other place, we did it this way. All right, well, let them tell you how they want it done. And if you do have an idea for making it better, maybe then come in later out privately with the manager or whatever and talk to them about it later. But anyway, if you have no experience, don't stress about it too much. When developing your resume, think about the things that you've done, whether it was in your career or your personal life. Maybe you participated in stuff with your church, or you did things with your kids, or you have hobbies, you had a house and you maintained a house or a property. Like all these things that you've done likely gave you some skills that can apply to the opportunities that you're interested in trying. So if you do have certain positions in mind that you want to go for, just think about all the things that you've done that may have given you skills that would attribute to that position that you're interested in. If you worked at a fast food joint as a kid, even, you had money handling skills and working under pressure and dealing with the public potentially, etc. Maybe, yeah, there's lots of examples of that. So don't stress too much if you don't have specific experience in work camping. Okay, is it possible to do this full time? And I wasn't sure if this question meant like as a full-time RVer, and a full-time RVer is an RVer that doesn't have a home base or a house to go back to, or if you meant, is it possible to do this full-time, like working full-time hours, like 40 hours or something a week? The answer is yes, to whichever way you meant that question. Most in our recent survey, our 2022 survey, I think it's like, it was either 70-30 or maybe 60-40. Work campers are, the majority are full-time RVers, while the smaller number was part-time RVers, like maybe they still have a house or a home base or something that they'll go back to for part of the year. It'll work either way. You guys do what is right for you, okay? Working full-time, definitely. There are a lot of opportunities that are 32 to 40 hours a week. If you want that many hours, sometimes those hours could be split between two people if you are a couple or partners traveling together. So again, just verify with the employer for sure what specifically it means, what their hours are, their schedule is like. So yeah, you can definitely do it full-time. Are there jobs for solo work campers? Yes, 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 you bet. This is something, there are a lot of solos out there who feel like, oh, there are no jobs for me. Everybody wants couples all the time. And you will get that feeling if you're just out there looking at certain work camping resources that, are primarily just campgrounds. A lot of them will just hire couples, and that can feel pretty frustrating. But if you're using our system, more specifically that hotline, remember we had that solos considered checkbox. We ask every employer when they submit their ad, will you consider solos? So they're going to tell us yes, no every time. So you're going to know when looking at that ad that they said, yes, we consider solos. You'll be able to search to just see those ads. Typically, it's around 70-75% of the ads coming through the system are employers that do consider solos. So yes, there's absolutely opportunities out there. If you see a job listing and everything about it is like checking all your boxes, but then it's couples only, contact them anyway, especially if it's like an immediate need position. They may be flexible on that, okay? It's just going to depend on the operation. Some places, especially RV parks and campgrounds, they will lean more towards couples because they're getting 2 workers and only giving up 1 RV site. So that's really kind of the bottom line as to why a lot of places just look for couples, but there really are lots of solo opportunities out there. Okay, are there work camping opportunities for families with children? Yes, absolutely there are. And there are more families now work camping than ever before. So same kind of thing. I'm sorry we don't have a checkbox yet for families with children, but that's coming. We're actually working on a complete redesign of workamper.com right now that we're going to launch in 2023, and it's going to have even more capabilities for you guys to narrow down and customize the job listings for yourselves. And families with children is going to be one of them. So yes, most definitely. And this just kind of comes back to a little bit what we talked about before of knowing yourself. So if you're a family with kiddos and your kiddos are like kiddos that love to be around other kiddos and do lots of activities and have lots of stuff to do, then you may not want to go be the only camp host at a remote campground out in a forest in the middle of nowhere, okay? That may not be the gig for you. You may want to look more at the larger parks, Jellystones, KOAs, those RV resorts that have all kinds of cool stuff to do and cater a lot more towards families in general, just as their customer base, because they're just going to better understand you in general, and there's just going to be more for your kids to do and interact with when you're not at work. But yes, totally. And oftentimes it's just being upfront with the employer. So when you're making your resume, just be sure to include that you are traveling with kiddos. If they're of an age where they need to be monitored by a parent, then the employer needs to know that. So that way, if there are 2 parents, you guys are maybe working opposite shifts. If you are a solo parent traveling with kiddos, you can still make that work. There are some employers that will allow the kiddos to be with you while you're working sometimes, or maybe there is some kind of childcare or somewhere the kids can be while you're working. And sometimes too, if you do go to work at a place that maybe hires a larger number of work campers, then within that, little community that you have there, you may be able to find someone who can, check in on your kids or babysit the kids. This kind of applies to pets too, just FYI. So finding an opportunity that has a larger work camper staff, you'll be able to create more of a community there that can maybe help you out a little bit with hanging out with your kids and taking care of your kids. So yeah, absolutely opportunities. Just be upfront about it when communicating with the employer. That way there's no surprises. All right, we have some folks here. We are Canadian. How does this work for us? And that we can kind of go a couple different ways with this. If you go to the FAQ at workamper.com, when you go to our website, up in the top right, there's a little FAQ link. You can check that out. We answer a lot of questions, including a couple questions about Canada and Canadians. There used to be a pretty thriving Workamping community in Canada. We used to have a whole section dedicated to it on our website. But when the Canadian government started cracking down on business owners, like, you must hire local. And if you don't hire locals, then you have to prove to us why you can't hire locals. And there was fines if they didn't hire. And so it just kind of fizzled out. And we very rarely see Canada opportunities. I think they're out there. I just honestly don't know how Canadian businesses are finding work campers anymore. I'm not aware of any resources out there for folks to do it. Canadians are welcome to use our site. We've just, like I said, seen a decline over the years, ever since like 2010 or so. It's really kind of, unfortunately. So if you are Canadian and wanting to work in Canada, you totally likely very easily can. You may just have to do more of a cold calling approach, contacting businesses in the areas you want to go to. If you are Canadian and wanting to come down into the United States to work, there's a few opportunities to do that without too much hassle, but it's going to be more so like volunteering. I think the National Park Service has a VIP, Volunteer in Parks program, that allows for non-residents to participate. Other nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity and maybe some others will be able to work with non-residents in their programs as well, so you can look into that. And there's a couple links that we have in that FAQ on our website. Or you can get into getting, the work visa and going through that process. Again, we have the link to that is in the FAQ. So it is possible, but there might be a little more paperwork involved. All right. Are there any jobs that are low key? And to me, I just kind of interpreted that as maybe like less physical, lots of people coming in all the time, busy place, and absolutely. So we kind of talked about it a little bit already, but yeah, if you are someone who's not, wanting to stand on your feet all day or be up and down, bending, stooping, doing, kind of physical labor like cleaning, painting, carpentry, that kind of stuff, definitely there are jobs that are less physical in nature. And if you are someone that does have some limitations, if you're like, I can stand, but I will need to maybe sit and take breaks a little bit, just be upfront with the employer about what your capabilities are and maybe any concerns that you would have. Some employers are able to accommodate things, some may not be. It just kind of depends on the business operation. But absolutely, definitely jobs that are more low key. I know there are some, even RV parks and stuff, especially the ones where it's more of like a resident park. It's not transient vacationers. It's like people buy lots and stay there. That style office, you're not going to have check-ins all the time. You'll have residents coming in to ask questions here or there, but part of the day you might just be sitting behind the desk reading your book until somebody calls in or comes in with a question. So yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some more low-key opportunities. That's probably more so going to be in like the volunteer realm where you're just working in trade for an RV site. So looking more at volunteer opportunities, which we do have a volunteer opportunities page on our website, more specifically for those kinds of jobs. I would look in that realm. And something that we're looking at doing on the new site as well is kind of a physicality meter for job listings. So the employer can kind of say high, medium, low intensity. So then that way you can sort the jobs by what you know you're capable of, or what you're wanting to encounter physically. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, do any jobs provide a place to live if I don't have an RV? Yes, there are some. So most employers are anticipating work campers are coming in a hard-sided, self-contained RV. So they want you to be able to do things like, be safe no matter what the weather is, whether it's raining, storming, hot, cold, whatever. They want you to be able to be accommodated so you're not suffering in whatever the weather is. You also need to be protected from wildlife, because like I said, some of these places might be in areas where there are wildlife, like bears and buffalo and moose and who knows what. They want you to be safe from those kinds of critters and stuff. So that's oftentimes why employers want folks to bring their house with them. Some places will be able to, will have like a shower house available, whether it's available to guests or just to the work campers that you can utilize. But some may not have those facilities, and so they would expect you to be able to, shower, cook for yourself, clean up after yourself, etc., all within your RV. So there are some places that will accept folks with, not self-contained. Maybe you're, rocking in a truck or a minivan, or, tenting with your car or something like that. There are some places where, that'll be totally fine, and they'll have the facilities to accommodate, our human needs, but some won't. So there are places that do provide housing. Typically the housing is going to be dormitory style. Maybe it's a mobile home or a park model. Maybe it's an RV that's on site. Could be a house even, or apartment. It's just going to depend. So we do have a checkbox now on our hotline job page, so you can select for other housing available and just see the listings where employers have indicated they do have additional housing available, but it's not going to be a whole lot. Okay. How do you know what the owner or manager is like before you commit to working for them? And that's a very good question. You may or may not get that answer beforehand. So I totally recommend that a work camper asks to communicate with whoever their direct manager or supervisor is going to be. Sometimes it may be the owners, sometimes it'll be a district manager, regional manager, or a manager or assistant manager. It's really going to depend on the operation. When you guys are applying for these opportunities, it's going to vary. You might be speaking to an HR person that's never even been to the location that you're going to be going to work at. So in cases like that, I would definitely be like, hey, would it be okay if, and you could even premise it in that, would you please give my name, phone number, email address to the manager and have him or her contact me at their convenience, because I'd like to just have a little conversation. So, just talking to him on the phone, or if you can get him on something like a FaceTime web call or something, and just maybe have some questions prepared ahead of time, and just to feel them out and just kind of see what their personality is like, and see if you will jive or click well. I totally encourage you to do that. Another option is, like we talked about before, definitely look to see if there are any postings in the Work Camper Experiences section on that employer. Even if the employer isn't advertising, you can get to the Work Camper Experiences tool from that dashboard that we were looking at, and you can look up any employer in there to see if there's anything that's been written about them there. There's also some Facebook groups where work campers will go in and share about XYZ employer that they worked for, but searching in Facebook groups is very cumbersome, and the way that Facebook does it makes it challenging to actually find what you're looking for. So that can be a little more stressful, but something to try. And then I wanted to show you guys real quick here. We'll pop back into our browser. So over at workamper.com, we do have a tool called the member map. And so I would encourage you, if you are, exploring an opportunity in city state, to zoom into that location and see if there are any work camper pins in that area. If you click on the pin, it'll give you, the name and the address, and you could click on the full profile to see if that that work camper has shared any of their contact information. And then you can contact that work camper and say, hey, I see you're at this location on the Workamper member map. Did you happen to be working for XYZ employer while you were there? If so, would you be open to talking with me about it? So that's another way just to try to connect with work campers who are working somewhere or have worked somewhere. You could also ask the employer as well to try to communicate with other work campers that they have hired or have worked for them before. The only thing with that is, they're likely only going to direct you to people that had a positive experience or are having a positive experience. So it's going to be, probably a little more of a biased testimonial, but still helpful. And some work campers will be honest, they really might love a job that they're doing, but there's always going to be some things that they won't like about it. Doesn't mean it's a bad experience. There's just always pros and cons to everything. So yeah, so kind of a couple different resources or ways to go about trying to learn more about, the upper echelon of who you'll be working for and working with, to get a better idea if it's going to be an operation that is going to mesh well with your personality and kind of how you like to do things. And yeah, sometimes it'll be the person that you're interviewing with too, which obviously makes it even better because you're going to have a lot more conversation. And if an employer, I really hope that as a work camper, you guys are doing, phone calls with the employer or like these webcam calls, etc. Instead of just doing email back and forth, because you can't pick up on tone in email. And, with email, you get to think about what you're saying. It's not kind of in the moment. You're not getting personality, body language, etc. So, do what you can to try to make that phone interview happen, or even one of these, live cam interviews happen, especially if the person that you're interviewing with is maybe going to be the owner or manager person that you will be working with as well. All right. What are the basic rules of work camping with pets? Can you have them? Is there a limit on the number? So yeah, the majority of our viewers do travel with pets. Again, that's more of like a 60-40 or 70-30. I should really look at the survey before I get online with you guys. So I have more exact numbers for you. But yeah, absolutely. You can totally have pets as an RVer. I've been in campgrounds where I've seen, 10 little floofy dogs come hopping out of an RV, and they've got their little fenced in thing, and these little puff balls are just running around outside, and you're just like, whoa. And then myself personally, we traveled with 4 cats in our fifth wheel, and that was a lot for some people, but was, totally normal for us. So yeah, you can definitely travel with pets. Is there a limit on the number? There might be, depending upon the employer. So if you are going, if the work camping job that you're considering is providing an RV site for you, then you definitely want to ask the question if there's any limitations on pets. Some locations may have a certain number. I don't know why they have certain number limits. I don't know. Businesses have the reasons, I guess, just to not have too many critters running around. Anyway, some may have restrictions on breed type, and that can relate back to their insurance that they have. Some insurances will, restrict certain breeds, unfortunately. So definitely want to ask some questions just to make sure. And there are certain instances, so the concessionaires that operate in like national parks like Delaware North, Santara, Aramark, oftentimes they are leasing an RV site from the National Park Service. So they're providing that RV site for you, but they're not making the rules on that RV site because it's not actually their RV sites. So like in Yellowstone, for example, there's a 2-pet limit, and a pet can never be left outside unattended. Obviously, because of the wildlife and stuff coming and going, it's not safe for the pet. So there may be some rules or restrictions like that as well that you'll need to follow. And then, of course, with dogs and even with cats too, it's good to keep them on a leash. So that way it's just, less likely to get away from you, and you don't want to lose a pet, while you're out camping and stuff. And yeah, there are also been folks with fish, pigs, birds, lizards. There's probably been some other weird ones, but Yeah, hey, whatever critter you love, if you can, logistically figure out how to take them RVing with you, do it. Then just, again, communicate with that employer to make sure it will mesh with you and your critters. Alrighty. Do Workampers receive 1099s at the end of the year for paid wages? Maybe. Again, I know a lot of these questions, you're like, this is the same answer for every question, but it's like we talked about with Workamping, it varies so much. There's a lot of answers for all of these questions. So not always, but sometimes. So this again is another question you're going to add to your list of interview questions when communicating with an employer before you accept that position. You want to make sure you have all these things ironed out ahead of time. What's the compensation going to be? When am I going to receive the compensation? Am I going to be considered a W-2 employee or a 1099 contractor? Is the RV site and non-monetary perks that you're providing me going to be considered income to me or not? It may depend on the state and what the employers do. Will my RV fit on the site? Can I drive there safely? What are all my job duties? And what do you expect me to do for those job duties, and etc. And what's my schedule going to be like? Is there any flexibility on the schedule? How do you handle days off? Lots of good questions to ask that employer, so that way you know what you're getting into. We do have some lists of questions available in the article index on our website as well. Okay, so if an employer is saying, hey, Workamper, I'm going to need you to work these specific days, these specific hours, and in that time, I want you to do these tasks in this specific way, then that really is an employee-employer situation. You should be treated as a W-2 employee based on the rules of like the IRS and whatever federal stuffs that decides those things. If the employer is like, hey, I need this building built on my property, and I would like for you to get that done. And so you go and build it. I need it done by October. Have at it, send me the bill. That's going to be more of a contractual relationship. You're going to decide when you're working, how it's being built, the materials you're going to use, and you're going to be providing your own tools and resources to get it built. So, and other 1099 contractor examples are like the gate guarding thing. And so it kind of fudges a little bit. And also, you guys, there are employers that either A, don't understand the rules, so they're doing things not by the books because they just don't know, or two, they know but are doing it not by the books anyway. So you kind of have to educate yourself a little bit ahead of time, especially if you're concerned about, taxes, income reporting, etc. Again, everybody's kind of budgets, financial needs are different, so you got to know your situation. So that way, when an employer's throwing stuff at you and you're like, you're treating me as a 1099 contractor, but expecting all this other stuff, am I okay with that? Am I not okay with that? So you definitely want to ask questions. And it is going to depend also on the state. So there's like federal guidelines, but then states also have their own guidelines as far as bartering goes, etc. So it can get a little like, I would not hesitate to encourage you guys to work with an accountant. There's a Jackson Hewitt entity that specializes in tax returns and stuff for Workampers, especially if you're working in multiple states. There's a gal called, her name is Heather Ryan. She goes by the Tax Queen. And so she works more specifically with small businesses, RVers who are operating small businesses, but she'll work, with anyone in general to kind of assist with kind of the tax planning aspect. So yes, kind of hitting on this other question too, if no monetary compensation is provided, only an RV site or perks are provided, is that considered a form of taxable income to the Workamper? Federally, no. There's a IRS regulation. We do have it in the FAQ on our website. If you are accepting the RV site as a condition of employment, then, and a couple other items in that rule, then that shouldn't be considered as income to you. But again, states have different rules on bartering. Some are more, friendly to the Workamper than others. And again, sometimes our employers just haven't got the right accountant and may not be doing kind of the right bookkeeping on their side. So just something to watch out for. But oftentimes you guys, you know, especially even if it is a W-2 position, and what I hear from a lot of work campers is, yeah, you know, they're going to count it as income and I'm going to get a W-2 or a 1099 or whatever, but I, you know, paid my income tax, like they took the income tax out of it while I was working. And so at the, you know, once you file the tax return, oftentimes, you know, taxes aren't due. It ends up kind of being a wash or whatever. So talk to a tax professional. I'm certainly not an accountant. That stuff makes my brain melt. So yeah, a few things to figure out there, but there are some resources out there to help you guys. Okay, kind of bringing it home here. Just a couple more questions to go. Someone asked, will there be a Workamper Rendezvous in 2022? So what the Workamper Rendezvous is, it is a live conference-like event, and it's really the only one in the work camping realm that exists. And we started doing it back in like 2011, I think it was. And then, of course, we did it every year annually in October in Heber Springs, Arkansas, which is where our the international headquarters of Workamper News is. And we have this beautiful community center just right down the street here from our office that can house about 200 or so folks with great presentation rooms and all that jazz. Plus, we're right on a beautiful lake. So there's great campgrounds around, Army Corps of Engineer campgrounds. So just a beautiful place to be, especially in October. We may change the timing of it a little bit in the next few years. Obviously, the pandemic kind of blew up our plans for 2020 and 21. We're not going to do one this year. We're just so overwhelmed with getting the new website built. We're working with a programming company, but I don't need to get into all the details, but you got to tell the programming company everything that you want, and then they make it happen. So we're, you know, ironing out all the stuff and working with them, and then we got to look at what they do and stuff. And so that's a lot on top of just all the general operations and stuff going on. So it was just kind of a crazy year for us this year. So I'm sorry we're not doing it in 2022, but I'm totally planning on doing it in 2023. Will likely be in the September, October timeframe in Arkansas. And workamperevent.com, that's the website that we use to put the information up about Rendezvous. And typically we bring in a bunch of different speakers in the RV industry. And it's more educationally, it's not just a bunch of sales pitches for, you know, RV cleaning supplies and whatever. We try to get folks that help you learn about, you know, maintaining your RV, figuring out your domicile, what to do with mail, how to get started work camping, being successful at work camping, dealing with issues that come up, and just kind of all aspects of the RV and work camping lifestyle is what we try to cover. So it's super fun and a great way to network and meet others of like mind. So watch for that in 2023. We'll hopefully have info on that in the early part of the year. All right. What internet services are best? Again, it's going to kind of vary on where you're going to go and what your needs are. Most RVers run around with a hotspot off cellular data, whether they have their, you know, a separate hotspot or they're just using maybe their smartphone device as their hotspot and running off cellular service. But if you're in an area that doesn't really have great cellular service, that may not be an option. So then, you know, there's satellite and Starlink available now. Campground Wi-Fi is getting a little bit better than it used to be, but oftentimes I wouldn't rely on campground Wi-Fi, especially if you're someone that needs Wi-Fi to do some work or operate your small business on the side or whatever. And it's also not as secure using that campground Wi-Fi. So I would check out rvmobileinternet.com. This couple focus, like that's what they do. They focus on the different types of internet connection that work campers, that RVers the different services that are available. And so they outline the different services and also like the equipment that you may need, cell boosters, Wi-Fi boosters, individual modems. I don't know, it gets a little techie for me. So RV Mobile Internet is a really good resource for just learning about the different options that are out there, and then you can decide which one is going to work best for your budget and your needs. TechnoRV.com, that's another great website. They have some of the, so once you learn about it on mobile internet, then go to TechnoRV. They have some cellular boosters there and also some kind of modem service, something or other. But they're super great. They have lots of different products for RVers, and they're RVers themselves, so they've tested all this stuff. And the customer service there can't be beat. So when you buy off Amazon, there's no one for you to call really to get help. Amazon's not going to help you. But if you buy it from TechnoRV and you're like, I can't get this thing to work, you can call TechnoRV and they're going to help you out. So we definitely recommend shopping with them if you do want one of the products that they have available. All right, I believe this is our last question in the slides here. Explain how an owner manager chooses the right Workamper for their operation. And this is a horse of many colors, so it's really going to depend. So the last couple summers, could be owners and managers are more so doing the can you fog a mirror test? Okay, great, please come, we need help. There are more opportunities right now than there are Workampers taking them. So we're seeing still about right now, I think it's like 80% of our job listings on the hotline right now are immediate need. So there are many places that are still, trying to find Workampers to finish out their summer season. So in those kinds of times, it could be an owner manager would be less particular about things, but hopefully, how an owner manager should go about it is like we talked about before, doing a thorough interview. They're going to have a list of questions that they need the answers to. They're also going to have the different, if there are multiple job positions within their operation, they're going to know what those different job positions are and have specifications for each of those different job positions really spelled out well, and know what their expectations are for all of those different roles in their business. So then that way, when they're asking their questions and communicating with that Workamper, they're then able to pick up on the Workamper's, personalities, skills, abilities, willingness, and be able to then see which job box that they fit in best within the operation. And so it is really important for you guys to be upfront and honest with employers when communicating with them, and the same goes for employers. Don't mislead Workampers. Don't promise things that you're not willing to fulfill and keep your promise on. We hear, unfortunately, things happen because there's pickles on both sides, you guys. So just understand we deal with people a lot in this community, in this lifestyle, and there are ones that are not great in general or just ones that aren't great for us individually. But there are things where, a Workamper accepted a job, traveled to that job, and they got there and the employer said, oh, sorry, I actually hired back my old Workampers and we don't need you guys anymore. And you're like, I just traveled all the way here. Okay. Or, an employer hires Workampers to, show up in 3 months, and that date comes and the Workampers are nowhere to be found and they won't answer their phone, they won't answer emails, and they've just ghosted them. And it's just, that's the nature of things, and it's super frustrating. But those of you who are listening to this are not going to be those people, because you're already taking the time to educate yourselves and learn as much as you can about this lifestyle. So you're not gonna run into these kinds of issues. So an employer should, like I said, ask a lot of questions, get to know that Workamper as best as possible. We also recommend calling references, doing background checks as well, just trying to get to know as much as you can about that Workamper ahead of time. And also, like I said, having clearly defined roles and expectations within your business, so you know how to fit those Workampers into those roles, if they'll fit or not. So that's kind of what I recommend there for that. So, all right, those were all the pre-submitted questions. So appreciate all those great questions. We did have one question here submitted by a live attendee. So let's see what that one is. Okay, how do employers feel? Okay, how do employers feel about having a special needs adult that lives with you in your RV but needs very little supervision? I don't know specifically. I have known of multiple couples that I've met, or families traveling on the road with a special needs person. That's oftentimes it's an adult child that's traveling and living with them. And I'm just trying to remember the conversations that I had with them, but I don't think, I mean, they were still able to find jobs and live this lifestyle. Again, that's just one of those things just to be upfront about. And hopefully if you are having, the verbal conversation with the employer and, you bring that up, and if you get quietness or the tone changes, etc., then, that could be a little bit of a flag. Trust your gut on those situations too, when communicating with folks about, who your RV household is. But you're going to find opportunities that are going to work for you. And there are opportunities out there too. There are multiple employers where you're not necessarily living right on site of the operation. And so, especially if they're housing you somewhere else, or you are finding your own RV site in the vicinity of the job, that's whatever. You're finding your own place, that's not going to matter. You don't even necessarily have to worry about that. Another one that just came to mind, so Bolin Travel Centers, they have multiple travel centers in New Mexico and Arizona, and they have created RV sites for their work campers right at the different travel centers, because the travel centers are kind of remote. Most of them are not like in towns with stuff. So they had to make those RV sites to get their workers there. And so with the housing area that's just dedicated to work campers, it's not, customers coming and going. There's not a lot of commotion and other people coming and going. It's really kind of the same folks there all the time. That's probably going to be even better of an environment for a family, or maybe, a situation like yours. You're going to be able to get to know the people that you're living with better. And so that hopefully, can create more trust and comfortability for you as well. So there are definitely opportunities where, whatever, if it's a physical disability, mental disability, whatever the folks have, it can be worked with. Absolutely. So don't let that discourage you. And sometimes they can even come, they let your child or person that you're traveling with come to work with you and interact. Again, it really kind of depends. Every situation is going to be unique, guys. Okay, another question just popped in. We are applying now for host positions for summer 2023. What kind of timeline can we expect, i.e. when might the employer contact us? That's a great question. We didn't talk about that really. So right now, as I mentioned before, about 80% of the ads, if not more, are for right now, or maybe fall, winter. So less than 10% of employers right now are recruiting for 2023. It's just a little bit early. We are seeing a few more employers getting on board with recruiting early, but not that many yet. So summer recruiting typically starts November, December, and then January, February, March, it gets real crazy. So usually we'll see the most help wanted ads for summer season jobs in February, March for sure, and even April, which is a little late, honestly, because most of the jobs are starting in May. So a lot of work campers like you guys like to plan ahead, and that's totally cool. And I would definitely recommend at least 3 to 6 months before you want to start that work camping job, you start looking for opportunities that meet your time frame and your wants and desires. So that way you're just more likely to open yourself up to more opportunities. You have more time to kind of pick and choose and learn about the different opportunities to then decide this one's going to be right. Maybe this one will do another year. That one was a no, etc. So 3 to 6 months before you want to start that job. And that's what we tell employers to do. 3 to 6 months before you want those work campers to be there, you need to be advertising or getting in the resume database to find those work campers, okay? So that's what I would recommend getting started at. So timeline of being contacted by employers, that can be interesting. So some employers, again, it's just going to vary. So if the operation is one where the owner is doing all of the recruiting, all of the bookkeeping, managing operations, managing inventory, managing all the maintenance and all the things, that's probably going to be an employer that will only contact the work campers that look like it's going to be more like a match, and they may not even acknowledge the others that are inquiring. And that's super frustrating for work campers. I totally get that. But oftentimes they're just wearing so many hats and they're so busy and overwhelmed with all the things, they're just not going to take the time to respond to every single one. But then there are some that will. They will respond to every single applicant that inquires. There are some where you will go through an online application process. And so that feels even more like you've sent your stuff out into the world and you have no idea if anybody's going to get it or not. So sometimes that can be a little like, hello, but you might be able to dig around their website a little bit and find like an email address or a phone number that you can call. We absolutely encourage following up, especially if an employer has provided more than one point of contact in their help wanted ad. Use all of the points of contact. So if you submit an online application process or you send them an email, if this is a job that's like months away, give them maybe a week or so to get back to you. And if you don't hear anything, let's use that other point of contact to reach out and say, hey, just wanted to check in and see if you received my resume, received my first inquiry, received my online application, whatever. Definitely do that follow-up. If the employer has not included their phone number in their ad, they may not want to be called, and so I might discourage you from calling at that point unless it's like the job has an immediate start, you've emailed your resume, you really want this job, then I'm going to go on the Googles and try and find their phone number and try and call them and be like, did you get my stuff? I want to come work for you. I know this job starts right away. So sometimes it's squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. So definitely follow up and try to make contact if you can. So if the job starts a ways out, give them a little bit more time. If it is an immediate need, try to follow up a little sooner. We can kind of think of that in the inverse. So if you're applying for a job that starts a year from now, that employer might take a month or something to get back to you. And you're just like, oh my gosh. But especially right now, they're still in their summer season now. So like, while some of them are like, yeah, I know I'm going to need to find people for 2023, so I better start on that. But that's probably not going to be their main priority when they're sitting down at their computer in the morning, is responding to those 2023 inquiries. So it might be a couple days, it might be a couple weeks, it might even be a couple months. I know like sugar beet harvest has an online application process, and earlier in the year, it's quite a bit of time before they start getting back to people and start processing those applications. So I know you guys are tired of me saying this, but it's going to vary. Again, we kind of mentioned it earlier on, but if you're seeking a fall winter position, summertime's a good time to start looking for those opportunities. The jobs that are like holiday-ish, like Christmas tree lights, Christmas tree sales. There are some entities that like set up the little kiosks in malls, and so it's busier at Christmas, so they need more help at Christmas, so they'll hire, work campers. Those entities, I would say September, October is when a lot of those job listings are hitting harder, and they're really, trying to get their recruiting flushed out. So that would be for like summer season. But yeah, another question came in, how many work camping jobs are year round? That's a good question. I'll have to do some math on that. I've honestly never, and it's tough too sometimes. So when employers, and this is pretty much across the board on any resource that you're going to find on work camping, employers write their own ads. And some employers are really good at it, and some employers, you're like, okay. So you may have a lot of information about the opportunity, and you may be left like, all right, this is going to be a long phone call, because you have a lot of things you still need to know. So some employers, you don't know exactly what the job duration is, or what the job is, or when you're going to start, or when you're going to end, etc. So we're going to work on that on the new site to get a little more definition there. At least with our job listings, you'll have the at least the month when the jobs will start in. So we're getting there, guys. All right, so as far as a percentage, I can't really say, but it's gonna, again, depend on the operation. Is it a business that's open year round, or is it a business that's only open certain times of the year? You know, I mean, a Christmas tree farm, obviously, or the sales lot, you can't run that year round, or fireworks tent, that's only gonna be a limited time kind of thing. But positions where you are, you know, like the sales positions that we talked about, some of those remote jobs, or doing the campground map sales, like that's going to be a thing you could do year round if you want to. Sometimes you can take breaks. Sometimes you can do the job for a few months, take a couple months off, do the job for a few months, take a couple months off. So there is some flexibility. Southern Cross, I think, is like that as well. DigiKey is an electronics fulfillment center that's up in Minnesota. And they have a fairly new Workamper program. Express Employment Professionals does the hiring for their Workamper program, but they have multiple different start dates. And then if you wanted to like leave to go do sugar beet harvest and then come back after the sugar beet harvest, like they can, you know, work with you on that. But like DigiKey, for example, if you want to go and like, they're open year round all the time. So if you want to hang out in Minnesota through the winter and stuff, I'm sure they would love to have you. So even if an employer isn't advertising that the job is year round, but their business is open year round, I would totally ask them if you could stay, like, hey, I see that you're advertising for this period of time, but if we wanted to stay longer, would that be okay? Most employers are totally on board, because it's way easier if they just hire you guys now and you just stick around and never leave. Then they don't have to hire more people and train new people and all that stuff. So yeah, they would love that if you're a good fit for the operation and doing well there. Absolutely. So there are some that are specifically year-round jobs, and sometimes they'll say, you know, the employer will say this is a permanent year-round opportunity in the ad text. But most, I would say, just because the nature of Workampers is they, you know, want to move around a little bit and go to different places. So most of the jobs are going to be seasonal or shorter term, but there are definitely long-term opportunities if you do want to stay in a place longer. And there are some Workampers, like I said, you guys can do this however you want to. If you go to work for an employer and you're like, this is the best ever, it's wonderful, then you do that. And then maybe you find 2 different jobs that you like. You go here in the summer and here in the winter, and just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth every year. Awesome. If that's what makes you happy, do that. I know some Workampers that did that for 20 years. They just went between the same jobs. And I'm like, all right, cool, if that's for you. Because that's the thing, you guys, with this lifestyle, one of the intangible benefits is just meeting so many other new people. You're going to make friends and get to know people that are going to, you know, just become lifelong friends, and that you're just going to become like family and stuff. And so oftentimes it's usually the people that keep Workampers in one place, more so than maybe the job itself. But I just think that's one of the super cool parts about Workamping. So, all right, well, great questions, you guys. Obviously, we went over our hour, but oh well. So thank you guys so much for listening in, for joining us, for submitting your questions. Again, workamper.com is our online home. Super great toolkit for learning about the lifestyle, finding the right jobs for you, putting yourself out there, researching employers to help you find the right opportunity for you. And we're here for you guys. When you send us an email, when you call us on the phone, when you post to our social media, one of us, a human, is going to look at that and respond, and we're going to do our best to help you resolve any issues that you have, answer your questions, get you pointed to the right resource, etc. Because we want you guys to be successful and explore this beautiful country as a Workamper. So I encourage you to please join workamper.com as a member, and yeah, happy Workamping and safe travels. We'll see you next month, and appreciate y'all being here. Thanks again. Bye, guys.